Hello and welcome to my review of the Zanflare F1 LED Torch. This is a torch which is sold by Gearbest and they have sent it to me for review, so I will give you my opinion of the torch and take you through the physical design and operation of it as well as test it. Now all the items are laid out here that are included. I put them on the table for you so you can look. This version is the 5000 Kelvin one, so it has the warmer light output. There's two options for this. Onto the user manual, quite well laid out. We have a total of 5 power output levels with this torch. We have a 30 seconds burst in the flare mode or turbo mode, right down to a 1 lumen Moonlight. We also have 2 strobe modes and a choice of power supplies. You can use the 18650 or the smaller CR123A cells. Manual is quite well laid out. There's a couple of typos, but it certainly does the job for getting you up and running. You get a supplied micro USB cable. It's a flat type with metal sheaths on the outside, and you have the 2 spare O-rings as well. And we have an adjustable hand strap. Central button there can be moved, and you can also release the tips. You have a quick release. You don't often see that on some of these hand straps, so that could be quite a useful feature to have. The supplied holster is completely different to most torches. This is a neoprene one, and you have a sewn in belt loop and a loop at the top as well. The stitching on this feels actually quite good. You also have a waterproof zip, and the zip end is a hard plastic. I initially didn't know whether this was going to be much good, but it does feel quite nicely made. So there are some advantages to having a neoprene case. It will provide better protection all around, and you can also fit in possibly another cable in there too to carry with it. As it's neoprene, it's quite stretchy, so you can quite easily fit the torch in there. It's better than I expected. Certainly feels better in the hand once you use it. It might not be to everyone's taste. Now onto the clip, this stainless steel clip. You only really have one place to put this, and that's at the bottom section. You can't put it in the other area because that's where the collar is for the charging port. Feels okay, quite a decent fit on that. Now you'll see the design of the torch. There is a lot of knurling on this. There's some quite fine knurling on the barrel portion, and you have a coarser design at the top and bottom, but it does provide very good grip on the torch. Whether you've wet hands or gloves, it's certainly one of the best gripping torches that I've used. Visually, it might be down to your own personal taste whether you like that. I think this is more of a practical point. The button on the side switch is metal, slightly raised tip. And here you'll see the collar. This is where there are 2 O-rings, one at the top and one at the bottom. Now you'll need to screw that up. You'll see the arrows indicating to close. This is the micro USB port. And there is also the LED charging indicator. I will turn that around so you can see that. Just next to the micro USB port. So to close this up, you push it up. It comes open when you get it out of the box, and then just push it up a bit and turn it around, and it will lock into place. You'll need to turn it quite a few times, quite a fine thread on that. Once it's in place, you'll have both O-rings covered, and it seals the port against any water, moisture or dirt. Looking at the LED, we have a Cree XPL V6 smooth reflector. Medium depth on this, so I'm expecting a bit of throw, a bit of range and a bit of spread too. And the button on the bottom, this is also metal. You also have a hardened tip point just at the side here in case you need to break glass, a windscreen or something. Unscrewing the base, and you'll see that we have a spring. There is no spring section in the top part. You can't remove the top head from the torch. Now I tried a few different batteries. This is a slightly shorter 18650. It's a flat head. And no problems at all with that. The spring is quite strong on this. There's quite a bit of pressure on it, so it effectively pushes the battery up to the top contacts, even with a slightly shorter battery. And I have a longer cell here. This one's a fair bit longer than some of the cells that I have, and again I didn't have any problems with that. You'll just need to make sure you tighten it up fully to engage the contacts. Now operation with this, the tail switch is simply on or off, but it has a momentary off rather than a momentary on function, so you can't half press it to turn it on. cycling through the power modes, single presses, and then to activate the flare or turbo you have to quickly double press, and you get about 30 seconds run time. It isn't obvious when it's ramping down the power though, so it's quite a smooth transition, so you don't really see it very obviously using the torch. Activate the strobe mode, you just push and hold the side switch, and then you can push again to pick between the two modes that you want to use. And then push and hold again to deactivate that. With the tail cap you can slightly turn that to kill the power as well. It's just a fraction of a turn there and it's off. It's not even a quarter of a turn. That's something which you could use if you're storing the torch. Although the button is quite hard to press, it does require quite a bit of pressure. It's not likely to get pushed by accident. I quite like the design of this. I think it works well from a practical point. And you can also, as you can see here, tail stand it. It does roll a bit, but if you have the clip on the side switch, will also stop it from rolling. I'm comparing it to the Rofis KR10. They're both quite similar torches in terms of specification. You'll see that the F1 is a little bit thicker in girth, but they're pretty much the same length and quite similar in terms of styling, although there are some differences. Testing the charging now, you'll need to push the tail cap button in and you'll see the red LED come on. This starts off with quite a slow, gentle charge at the start, just under the 0.10 milliamps, and then after about 3 or 4 minutes it ramps up to the full speed. Best speed I got was just under 1 amp, so the charging speeds are quite good on this torch, above average. When it's done, LED turns to green. Quick waterproof test. Make sure you do have that collar tightened up to provide the full water resistance for the micro USB port, but you can operate the torch underwater as well. Quick look at some beam shots inside. You'll see a concentrated area in the middle, and it does spread out quite a bit, so you'll have a mix of range and spread with this torch. Another quick beam shot on the ceiling, just bringing out the torch further distance away. Outside with the Moonlight mode, seems about right at 1 lumen, so that's quite a nice low mode if you want a low power Moonlight. Starting off with the F1, usual test, same location as all my other tests. You'll see cycling through the power settings. First thing you'll notice is the tint. It is quite warm, it perhaps a bit warmer on the camera than in real life. Right up to the flare or turbo mode. Good spread on this, and you've also got quite a nice concentration in the middle too, quite evenly distributed. It's no real hard edges at distances. Now onto the Rofis. This will also demonstrate to you the difference in the tint. The Rofis would be a cool white tint. Which you prefer is very much going to be down to your own personal preference. I don't have a preference either way myself. Some people prefer the whiter light and some the warmer, but you have a choice with this model. So its power output is pretty similar, and so is the beam pattern. There isn't a huge difference between these two. Starting with the Moonlight mode, my usual wide angle test. And then moving up through the power settings. The only thing to note with the flare or turbo is you need to press twice quite quickly to activate that. You can see it at the full power level now. Nice output on this. Very much in terms of the range and distance, a good balance between the two, so you're not stuck with one or the other, too much flood or too much throw. And at closer distance, just to show you the beam pattern again, bit of a hot spot in the middle, but it's quite well diffused when you're outside. This is my telephoto range test, and it does a nice job of lighting up the tree. Another wide angle shot. You're certainly not going to be unhappy with this in terms of the power output. It's right up there with the other torches that I've used, around about 1100 lumens. It could possibly be slightly higher. It's difficult to tell if there's only about 100 lumens difference, but it's certainly plenty of power with this torch. Onto the strobe modes, you have a quick rapid flashing one, and then you have the standard SOS. Not all torches have a choice, so you have the two here, so that's nice to see. I've done a couple of extra shots outside. This is on the roof. See plenty of range with the torch and a nice wide spread too. I quite like the balance between this. It means that you're not stuck with a big flood effect without much range, or too much range without any flood effect, lighting up a wider area. So from a practical point, an everyday type torch, general purpose, this would make quite a good choice for you. Even on the lower power levels here, you'll find there's plenty of light if you're just wandering around. Here I am in the garden. Light output's quite impressive on this. There's nothing to really be unhappy with. Just make sure you go for the one with the tint that you prefer. Wrapping up with a summary and conclusion on the F1 LED torch, I'll start with the areas for improvement. Not too many. The power switch could possibly be a little bit lighter to the touch. It requires quite a bit of pressure to turn it on. Also, you don't have a half press momentary on function. The styling and design is very much down to your own personal taste, so you can have a look at the video and see what you think. From a practical perspective, I think it works very well. In terms of the good stuff, the beam output is very well balanced, making it a good everyday torch. You have a mix of range and spread with this beam pattern. You also have good charging speeds, a choice of cool or warm LED colours, and a nice bundle, and the quality build of the torch is also up to a very high level. I have no complaints at all in that regard, nor the accessories. Don't forget to subscribe if you're interested in video reviews of this type. I will be doing more in the future, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.